Today's been a pretty good one, dude. So far, got some groceries, hanging out with a friend later. That's where I saw your email and I was like, oh, I have to remember to do this. And then right before that, I actually just got a new guitar for the first time in about 5 years.
Oh, what
Uh,
type of guitar?
it's an Epiphone Les Paul.
Ooh,
Uh, Very cute. I got it off Facebook Marketplace. Uh, Pretty excited to use it. I'm pretty excited to use it. I'm gonna use it right after this call. I haven't plugged it in yet.
oh, what? And then, how big is your guitar collection now? How many do you have?
Not that many. I have just like one Strat. Now this one as far as electrics go, and then I have just like one bass that I got for like $100 like a few years ago. It does the job.
Okay.
It's actually been getting smaller lately because I've been selling a bunch of gear because I'm about to move from my current place to a smaller place in about a month.
Okay.
So I used to throw house shows and stuff in my basement. But like I had like two drum kits and like a bunch of stuff, like my banjo. Those are all basically gone now.
Okay.
So I'm down to about five, five or so things at this point.
That's not bad. And then how's your pedal collection? Are you a big pedal guy or?
I am not a big pedal guy.
Okay.
I feel like I do a lot of effects in post.
Uh,
Show wise, I have. I feel like I only really use like chorus pedal, like maybe reverb pedal, but usually I use amp reverb.
okay.
And that's about it. Drive sometimes, but not a big pedal guy. Not a big pedal guy. I feel like my bandmates always have been more than me.
But
Uh, but yeah, I usually keep it pretty simple.
I got you. And I saw, I think you're graduating from Penn soon, if you haven't already, right? And
Yeah, about a week and a half from now or so.
congratulations on that. That's exciting.
Thanks, man.
Are
Appreciate
you
it.
originally from the PA area?
No, I grew up in LA,
Oh, okay.
LA area. Moved around there a bit, like during high school, but generally like grew up like around Pasadena area.
Oh,
And
okay.
I just came out here for school. I took a year off in the middle and stayed out here, so it's been about almost like I guess 4.5, almost 5 years.
Okay.
But I've
Have
been
you
out
been
here
able
in Philly.
to find a favorite cheesesteak spot yet? Or where's your go-to for that?
Whew, no one's gonna like to hear this, but I think cheesesteaks are madly overrated.
Right. Uh,
But I would say Ishkabibbles.
okay.
Ishkabibbles
For sure.
is my favorite.
Yeah, I feel
Uh,
like 'cause I'm from the suburbs of Philly, so I'm
okay,
right around
nice.
there. So I've been a Jim's guy my whole life, but to each their own. But
I just feel like I always feel too heavy after finishing a cheesesteak.
right, no, it's definitely one of those snacks. It's not like a snack. It's like you eat that and then you take a nap for the rest of the day.
Yeah, maybe I
Um,
can plan around my cheesesteak eating more
yeah.
carefully from now on.
Before Slowsie, you were in bands like I think what is it, Peachy and Gregory V and stuff like that. Were you?
Oh yeah. So Peachy was like my band. That was my first band ever, really. Um, and that was kind of, I mean, that was like how I got into music and stuff. Like as much as I am now, I guess it's kind of like. So I lived like in a fraternity house on campus. It was like co-ed. So like one of my sisters, brothers, whatever, was like saw her friend out of the window and she was like, "Yo, Mark, get your ass in here," because like he played guitar and she
Mhm.
wanted us to meet. And then we jammed in my basement. And like he ended up being in Peachy and there's like a couple other friends that I had just made, and it just kind of happened out of nowhere. And I was like not even like really thinking like, oh, I want a band so bad, like this is what I want to do. Like it just happened.
Mhm.
And then yeah, Peachy kind of fell apart at some point, like during kind of my time off from school, focus on other stuff, and then I ended up joining Georgie V, um, and that was great for me because, and I also played like just like a few shows here and there for like a few different bands like Yeet and like Psychic Agency,
Mhm.
just like on bass or lead guitar, or, like whatever they need me for, and that was great because I've never liked learning anyone else's songs. Like even from
Mhm.
when I started learning guitar, I've probably learned like three covers like ever.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and so like I just like started writing for fun, like week one, of having a guitar, just like two chords. But it was good for me to like go and like be in the background a little bit. As far as like having the spotlight off of me, but also just in terms of like learning the ways other people write and the way
Mhm.
other people run bands and just stuff like that. So
Right. I got you. So how did Slowsy's music compare to what you were doing with Peachy being, the lead and all that? Is it similar or did you kind of change styles over time?
I'd say Peachy was really distinguished by the fact that we had a sax player,
Uh,
and so it was a lot of like trying to figure out where that fits. And actually for my next like full length record, I think I'm actually gonna have him feature on one song.
Okay.
So it'd be good to have him back in there. But yeah, it was like a lot more low key, jazzy, kind of soft, and I feel like without really trying, Slowsie's gone a bit more hardcore, intense, more distorted.
Hmm.
Not like incredibly so, but I feel like that's probably the biggest distinguishing factor
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. Because in your Instagram bio, you're describing music as like surf rock or bedroom pop or a combination of those two. Is
Yeah,
that a specific sound that you tried for, or is that just like a culmination of all of your influences?
I'd say that's in part like influences and in part just like what other people tell me that I
Hmm.
am, and I'm like, okay, I'll believe you, because like
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to like put a genre to my own music.
Hmm.
Like I was telling my girlfriend like last week, like I feel I've always felt like my music sounds more like the music that I listen to than it actually does. Um, but yeah, and she was like, yeah, this isn't news to anyone else except for you. But yeah.
I feel it. So, how long have you been? When did you start learning to play guitar?
Okay, so it's hard to put years on it. I think I started off like sixth grade, seventh grade. Um, and like my dad like made me like sign a contract before he got me a guitar. Like put it on the window next to our front door, and it's like, you have to practice every single day and like take lessons and like all this shit. And I was like, okay, I'd do it because I really wanted to get a guitar. And then after like 3 lessons, like I stopped, and I didn't play that much. But we had a ukulele lying around. And I got really into Adventure Time,
Mm.
TV show, and like
Yeah.
all the ukulele songs in there. And so I started learning a bunch of those. And then I got really into ukulele, and then I was like, this is just a little guitar. And then I started playing guitar again, probably like freshman year of high school, something like that, sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
Um, and then like that's kind of when it started more in earnest for me, I'd say.
Okay. And then are you a big believer of your environment having an influence on your art? Like if you were still in LA, do you think your music would sound any different, or do you think it's really a representation of you personally?
Hmm, that's a good question. I feel like there's a couple different factors that go into that. I think one is kind of just like the fact that music is kind of like a result of life experience.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's like my life experience would obviously be really different if I stayed back in LA for the past 5 years of my life rather
Hmm.
than be here. So I think that would definitely be a factor. Uh, and I think another factor, and also just like my emotional state, as a result of that. But another factor is also just like influences and like people I'm around. And I feel like, there's like me going to and hosting and playing all the bunch of like house shows and stuff like that. I feel like I've been exposed to a lot of like local Philly bands, and they've probably like subtly influenced me to a degree. And then also, my bandmates, influencing like my songs, like that's also definitely because I've always tried to like let them affect the song as much as possible.
Right.
Although usually they resist it. I feel like this is a problem me and my buddy Alex were talking about a couple days ago. Is like as like the front man of a band who like writes all the songs and that kind of thing, like you kind of want your bandmates to be more invested. And also if you have good bandmates, like they're good musicians, so you want their like opinions, but
Hmm.
then people don't like want to step on toes. And so they will sort of resist like giving input, which can be frustrating at times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel you. So, and what was your process like of what's the word I'm looking for? Getting Slowsy as a band together. Did you do like auditions, or was this just like friends you knew that you were, fans of and knew were talented and brought them together?
Yeah, it was sort of like I think Peachy had a little bit more of the audition energy, especially like finding a drummer. But for Slowsy, it happened really naturally because essentially I wanted it to be my side project from Peachy,
Mm.
like my solo project.
Okay.
And then I wanted to do some of the songs live, so I asked some of my friends to play a show with me. And then that just happened a few more times, and then we were just a band. But it was like intended to be a solo project. I guess it kind of was a band, and now it's more of a solo project again. Um, so yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So it started off as like you were going to do everything from like your bedroom, because I've seen you go into the studio a lot. So is that
Mm.
going to the studio a result of you having all of these members, or do you think that still would have been happening if you were just doing it, all by yourself?
Yeah, so the studio thing's actually pretty recent. So nothing that I have out so far has really been in studio,
Mm.
except for drums.
Oh,
But everything else has just been like my bedroom or like my bandmates' bedrooms. But like the what you've probably been seeing like on my social media recently and stuff is like my buddy who goes to Drexel for his project for school, because he does music stuff for, like as his major.
mm-hmm.
Um, he actually is recording an EP with me, or like for me, I guess, like in the actual Drexel studios. So this is actually the first time I've spent really any time in the studios. So we had
Okay.
2 days last week, and then yesterday into tomorrow, and then like a couple more days. But that's like it. But no, it's like a brand new experience for
Uh,
me, and it's been a great time.
but so yeah, how are you liking it compared to just working by yourself in the bedroom?
It's there are pros and cons. Pros are definitely like having someone else there that knows what they're doing. Not only like takes the load off my shoulders, but also like lets me focus on certain things more, and like being coached through parts. Like just yesterday, we were recording a lead for this one song, and I had my buddy Tom, who was in Slowsie, played guitar, lead guitar, and he's great at tone. He's like a tone wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so he came in, helped me with the tone, and then he and Alex were like sitting in the control room, like just coaching me through the parts. And they're like, do something a little more like this, a little more like this, and so a little stressful, but it was also like good just because they're helping me come up with ideas and like I
Right.
have like an objective sense of like is it actually good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, other people think it's good, like that kind of thing, which
Okay.
is fun, but also it's exhausting because the thing about a studio is that you have like a limited amount of time, and like because it's like his school thing, like this is for free. But like in a real studio, the time crunch is even more because you're paying hourly.
Right.
And so like it's like I was there from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and it was like intense, like rush, like the whole time. Like I haven't felt that way since like I worked at a restaurant. But it was that, but just like sitting down, hunched over my guitar for like a day, and I
Right.
was like more exhausted yesterday than I've been in actually quite a while.
Okay.
After I got home from the studio and like my back was sore because I was just like, so it was great, but also like it's intense. It's intense.
Okay.
Years.
Right. So you going into the studio like with ideas, or you kind of going in with a blank slate when you go into like a bigger studio like that, and then more
Mm.
collaboration happens?
I think for me, I like to go in with a plan.
Okay.
I'm big on making demos. Like my general process writing songs is like I'll write a song, kind of start with different stuff, usually guitar or something, but then like build the whole thing, and then when I record the parts, the entire song already exists, but it's just like re-recording it well. So like that's kind of the process we're at now. Um, the uh, the lead guitar I kind of like to let. I'm trying to get a little more improvisey
Yeah.
in terms of like just like letting stuff come out and like that sort of thing. So for the other like because we were doing lead guitar yesterday and tomorrow, everything else besides that was very like like pretty much just like come in with a plan, just like get it done.
Hmm.
But this stuff has been more of like what you're kind of saying of like kind of come in a little loose, a little plan, see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was I about to say? How is the new music coming along? Do you like? Are you How is it compared to like your past releases? I guess.
Mm. Um, I'd say generally speaking, I like to do releases thematically.
Hmm.
Um, and so like my first record, like Late at Night, was just all about like sleep related like stuff. And then this most recent one, Sweet Nothing, was all just like like love songs, kind of like romantic things.
Right.
So like the ones in the pipeline right now. So I'm working on like a few projects at the same time right now, so I've been kind of busy. So
Right.
I have one like collab single that I'm working on right now, with this awesome vocalist that I met over Instagram, and that'll probably come out like in about a month from tomorrow, I'd say. But then like the more like developed releases, so like this EP is all about like nostalgia and kind of like feeling like you're getting older and like that kind of stuff, which is a great thing for me to be working on right now. I think like
Hmm.
as I'm graduating, and kind of moving on to that next phase. So it's like you know that project, and then the theme for the other one is less cohesive because it's just like all the songs we did as a live band that we never recorded,
Uh,
um, and so we actually have the band back together on that one,
right.
doing kind of like one last hurrah kind of thing. But sound wise, I'd say the one with the live band is going to sound pretty similar to the first record,
Okay.
and then this other one is gonna It's hard to say because like we're doing it in the studio, and like someone else is going to be like taking a little bit more of the creative direction in terms of mixing and like
Ah,
helping me come up with the parts. So I don't know what it's going to sound like yet,
okay.
actually, which is kind of fun.
That's exciting. So, when you're coming up with these themes, are these themes ideas that you have going into recording, or do they kind of develop as you're writing and recording and all that?
Well, I think that the way that I write songs is kind of there's based around my life, and
Mm.
so I write a lot of songs. Like I have like albums of songs like already just are not being recorded right now,
Okay.
that are like partially done or something like that. And so like they sort of I can just naturally sort of see them because I have them all like in a big list, and then I can just group them by like like, oh, these are all kind of similar because of this, and they all kind of sound similar. And then like it's also about making. I believe in like albums as like playlists
Okay.
that like an artist puts out. So it's like you kind of want it to have a good flow, a good vibe, that sort of thing. So, but like I'd say the themes are really just based more around like just what happens to me in my life.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. And because you said you graduated, did you study music at Penn, or what made you come out from LA to Penn to go there?
Yeah, no, didn't study music. I studied cognitive science, a little bit of marketing.
Wow.
So like psychology, philosophy, like computer science, linguistics. Anyways, I could talk about that also. But as far as music goes, no, I took like one music theory class at Penn. Um, but no, yeah, I mean, for me, moving to Philly had nothing to do with music,
Okay.
absolutely nothing. Uh, but like it had such a big impact on me. Like I don't think I would be as into music if I was still back home, probably.
Okay.
Because it's like the house show scene, just like that really like ate me up, and like I just got really into that.
Right.
Which I mean like there's things like that in LA, but I was just like never around them. But it's hard to say if it's like a where like a geographical thing or just like a what point in one's life kind of thing it is.
Right.
But it's impossible to like separate the two, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because in an article I read about you, I think it was like when you were just starting Slowsie, you were talking about, you mentioned tone earlier, and you were talking about how you find tone being very difficult in creating music. How is you? I think that article came out in like October last year sometime.
Mm.
So how's the process been of getting better at tone, or do you still rely on not rely, that's a poor way to put it, but your guitarist who you said was kind of a master of tone.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely helps me out. I think for me, for a long time, it was a lack of awareness
Okay.
that made it a big challenge because I was really focused on the parts, musically, and less about the sound and the feeling, which I feel like is the opposite of what most musicians would probably say. Um, but yeah, I was really focused on the parts, and then I was actually in Georgie V, and he was basically like, "Your tone is ass," and I was like, "Fuck." And so like I started like like watching YouTube videos and just like spending more time in my room, kind of just trying to turn knobs and fuck around with shit. I think that compared with like getting more into mixing, and stuff like also for like other people's projects and stuff, has kind of helped with that. It's definitely for me still the hardest part. Actually,
Yeah.
actually for this, I hate to admit it, but for this record we're working on right now, which is going to be called Honeymoon Phase, uh, it's like 6 songs, and like it was stalled like because my bassist Jacob always kind of takes a while, and so we were like waiting on him for a while, and then I finally got them all back, and I was like, fuck yeah, finally. And then
Mhm.
I was like, I don't want to record anything because I'm scared that the tone isn't gonna be right. And so I was sitting on it for like weeks, and Tomash was like, "Yo, like where are these guitar tracks?" And I told him, about my tone worries, and we decided that I just recorded like DI guitar, like absolutely dry signal,
Mhm.
and then he's just gonna like reamp the tone
Mhm.
and do everything on his end. So in that sense, I still am 100% relying on him for this project. I'll probably get more involved in like post production stuff, but yeah, I have to say it's still my biggest it's still my biggest sticking point.
So you're getting more into mixing and mastering, you said, or is that something you've always been into and done for people and yourself?
I feel like it's always been something I've tried to do, because I feel like I write and record demos basically at the same time.
Okay.
So I kind of have like a Logic Pro X project that I will like play stuff into, because usually I'm not just like writing something like on pencil and paper. It's usually like a holistic process. And like for that, like, I play with plugins and that kind of thing. And then over time got like more and more into trying to do mixing. And then for the first time a couple months ago, someone actually hired me to mix like their song. And so that's something I'm trying to get more into, because I'm working on actually like just getting more into the background sort of production side of other people's projects.
Oh, okay.
So after I move in a month, my future roommates, one of them kind of does a similar genre, but more probably like real estate, type, like spacey, like washed out kind of guitar vibes. And my other friend does rap. And I'm trying to get really deep into the production for both of their projects, and sort of like build a portfolio / just like experience of mixing different types of stuff, so that I can like, go online and try to like sell mixed master services on the side or some shit like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going back to like you said, your process of making demos, I thought it was interesting how you said you just kind of go in and you have like this whole idea set out. Are you going in with like, okay, I know the melody and lyrics and all that, or is there like a process where you're like, oh, I'm gonna write and then melody and then guitar, or is it just like you said, all kind of all at once?
I feel like usually it starts with me opening a project, getting like basic drum beat, and then like playing some rhythm guitar or bass more lately, and then like getting the tempo and then getting the feel, and then I'll just like improvise some lead over it and kind of just like sit there and let it loop ad infinitum until like I can just add more parts to it. And then like, so I have like so many projects that are just that, but the ones that become actually songs are, I think, the ones where I could write at least 2 good parts that sound good together.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting. And I saw on Instagram you do collage art too. Is that like you do the photoshopping and stuff like that, or how's that go?
Yeah. Yeah, I do collage stuff. I've been trying to get more like into telling other people about that lately. Because like I do all my own album art and stuff. But for that, like I started off using Photoshop, and then I got a new computer a couple years ago. And like my Photoshop version license didn't continue across, so I got this free program called GIMP, which is like something, whatever the G stands for, like image manipulator program. And so yeah, it's like I go in there and I kind of just go on like high resolution royalty free photo websites, and I just kind of just grab stuff and just kind of see what fits. I rarely go in with like something in mind.
Okay.
Like, yeah, but I've been trying to lately for these new album art ideas, because I'm trying to like, I feel like good art, generally speaking, has a lot of intentionality involved. And so I'm trying to be more intentional in making collages, but I don't want it to become something that's like stressful either.
Right. Yeah, no, because that was my next question, is that how much, like, when you're making your album artwork, how much does the music and like the, again, tone of the music affect the way you make the art, or do these just like regular collages that you made just freehand and then you just decided to put them with these songs?
Yeah, I'd say generally speaking, everything I've done so far, like the collages kind of existed, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'll just put it with this record, like whatever. Because I mean, for me, this was a problem for me, and this is kind of why Peachy fell apart, I think, is that I was way too like ego driven. And so for me, it started off as sort of like I need to make all my own album art. Like, I don't want to do any collabs with anyone. I don't want to like write for any male vocalist, which I still haven't done, but I want to do. Because I want it to be like all me. And then like I've kind of realized that that's just like a waste of time and energy, and also like other people have like great things to offer. And I think like the really like key realization of this was like